Hello, everyone. My name is Nyla Hawkins, and today I will be discussing my client case and plan of care. So here's an overview of what I will be discussing in this video. So I will be discussing my client's information, the treatment plan, treatment activities, the rationale behind the treatment activities, references, and conclusion. So now I would like to discuss my student's demographics. Her name is Ariel. I've changed it due to confidentiality reasons. She is 14 years old. She currently attends Stevenson Adlai School number 29. She is in the 8th grade, getting ready to transition into high school. She is also a part of the GEM program, and for those of you who are not familiar with the GEM program, it stands for Growth and Education for Students with Multiple Disabilities. They have 3 education levels for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. So the first level is the exploratory level, that focuses on sensory-based instructions that enriches the quality of life for students. And they also explore the ability to communicate with intention, and they establish communication networks for the child and their family. The next level is the emergent level, which focuses on supporting and refining communication systems, as well as working on pre-academic skills necessary for advancement. And lastly, the readiness level, which focuses on developing early academic skills with regular exposure to age-appropriate content. So moving on from that, Ariel was diagnosed with CVI since 8 months of age. The current therapy services that she receives is OT, PT, and she also has a vision teacher. She will have an OT when she transitions into high school, but I'm not sure if she will still receive PT or the school she's transitioning to will have a vision teacher. And a fun fact about her favorite color is pink. Just to give you some background on Ariel's diagnosis, she was diagnosed with CVI at 8 months of age. So as we've learned, CVI is a disorder caused by damage to parts of the brain that processes vision. It's most common in babies and young children, but it can also continue into adulthood. So now that I've discussed Ariel's background, her demographics, and her diagnosis, I would now like to talk about her past occupational performance, which was told to me by her OT while I was on field work. So as far as her education, she struggled with following teacher instructions due to frustration. She had trouble organizing her desk in the classroom, and she struggled with homework assignments. As far as social participation, she has positive interactions with her peers in the classroom and with other paraprofessionals that come into her classroom. As far as play and leisure, she likes to engage in group activities with her peers and classroom games that their teacher plans for them. So now I would like to focus on Ariel's current occupational performance. So here I've just listed a few that stuck out to me or what I observed in field work. So number one, she experiences visual fatigue when working on handwriting and typing assignments, and she's also having trouble implementing modifications into her classroom environment. She can sustain visual attention for a task for 5 minutes, but anything over 5 minutes, she gets distracted and she wants to move on to another task. As I stated before, she becomes easily distracted, but usually her distraction, or from what I've seen, is from people coming in and out of the classroom, whether it's the PT, paraprofessionals, teachers' aides. just different people coming in and out of the classroom, she tends not to focus on her assignment that her teacher has given her. And lastly, she tends to compensate by flexing her neck when doing writing tasks. So recently, she just got an adaptive keyboard, but she hasn't had the proper tools to hold up her iPad. So what she tends to do, she tends to get really close to the keyboard to look at the keys, and she flexes her neck a lot, and she often complains of neck pain due to the neck flexion. So now we will discuss the treatment plan. So I wanted to start with the goals that I've created for Ariel. So my first long-term goal is that student will improve visual perception skills such as visual discrimination or figure ground skills to accurately identify and interpret visual information in academic materials. For the first short-term goal, I said that student will improve visual memory skills to remember and recall visual information, such as spelling words or visual sequences. And the other short-term goal is student will improve letter formation skills to accurately write upper and lowercase letters with the correct stroke, sequence, and direction. So here are the objectives for the first activity that I've chosen for her, and I felt like were the most appropriate because from my observation during fieldwork, these are the objectives that she struggled with the most. So what I want to do is improve her visual memory, promote visual spatial perception, and promote sequencing and organization. So now we will move on to treatment activities. So here is the first activity that I've created for Ariel. It's called the spatial configuration with letters. One thing that I observed that my fieldwork educator did a lot with this student was that she worked on handwriting a lot and just recognizing those letters. Due to her diagnosis, she tends to get certain letters confused with another letter. So for example, instead of typing M, she'll type the letter N, which looks similar to her. So this activity, I said that the student will be seated in front of the classroom at her desk, which is important because she doesn't need to be all the way in the back of her classroom due to her diagnosis. That would just make her struggle even more. I also said, and she would be given a piece of paper with the first and last letter of her name. For her made-up name, we'll say letters A and J, spelled out with yellow pipe cleaners on a blank piece of paper. So the yellow pipe cleaners, that's purposeful. You want to give someone with CVI those bright colors because you want to set her up to succeed when doing activities like this. Then she will be asked to form each component of the letter with the pipe cleaners, and then she will put the pipe cleaners together. Once the student has shown she can do this at least 6 times successfully, she will then attach colored beads to each component line of the letter and move the beads in the same way that the letter is written. And so in this activity, and from what I've seen in fieldwork, what's most effective for her is that the OT is positioned in front of the desk. So in this activity, it's the same. I said that the OT needed to be positioned in front of the student's desk to show the student a model so she can visually remember the steps. because the OT is going to do it with her so she can set up that visual memory to remember the steps, and the OT will verbalize each step of the activity, again, because you want the student to be successful. So the upgrades that I put for this activity is to ask the student to create the other letters in her name, in her first name, show the model of the activity only one time, so you can give her that opportunity to see what she has remembered, and assign a letter that requires more vertical and horizontal lines, just to make it a little bit more challenging. The downgrades that I put for this is just to take away the beads altogether. It might be a little too complex for the activity to have beads, or the pipe cleaners to have beads on them. Only assign her the first letter of her name, so not worrying about the last initial of her name, and give her beads that are brighter in color. So here in this slide, I'm going to discuss the occupation-based models of practice / frame of reference, and intervention approaches for Ariel. So the OBM that I picked was EHP. The reason why I chose EHP is to increase her performance range and ability to perform tasks. So those tasks of handwriting and typing that she needs to be stronger in. The model of practice and frame of reference that I chose was the cognitive conceptual practice model. I chose this model because you, as an OT, you want to anticipate her difficulty doing a task. You want to explore specific strategies that will work for her, and evaluate the effectiveness of those strategies that you're using. And I picked visual perception as a frame of reference because you can see like the difficulties that can interfere with other occupations, especially in education. So she's having difficulty writing, recognizing letters on her keyboard. So I figured visual perception would be the most appropriate for her. So the rationale that I stated for this particular activity, I said that it would help Ariel with her visual, spatial, and visual memory skills, to help her understand the composition of spatial configurations and component lines of letters when doing a writing task. As far as evidence, this article basically highlighted the value of developing novel assessment approaches to help uncover higher order visual perceptual deficits, which are commonly overlooked. Here are my second set of goals for Ariel. My second long-term goal is student will learn to utilize assistive technology devices to enhance access to educational materials and promote independence in academic tasks. I thought that this long-term goal was appropriate given that she will be transitioning into high school this upcoming August. My third short-term goal is that student will learn and practice touch typing techniques to improve accuracy and speed in keyboarding tasks. And my fourth and final short-term goal is that student will improve keyboard navigation skills, including locating and using function keys, arrows, and other essential keyboard shortcuts with moderate assistance in 2 out of 3 trials. So here are my other set of objectives for the activity that we're going to talk about in the upcoming slides. So the first objective is improving visual memory. Second objective is to promote engagement in typing skills. And the third, improve visual attention. So here is the second activity that I have come up with for Ariel. So this one is typing a sentence using an adaptive keyboard, which she is using. So I said that the student will be seated at her desk with her iPad connected to her adaptive keyboard. She will be prompted to type 5 words to describe how she feels about transitioning into high school this upcoming August without compensating by bending her neck down to get closer to the keys and use proper finger positioning. She will retype those same words 3 times and then move on to type a full complete sentence that she will make up herself. With this activity, I wanted to make sure that it was something that she was typing that was meaningful to her, because she had expressed to my fieldwork educator how excited she was and at the same time how anxious she was to transition into high school. And keyboarding and writing, as we've been talking about this entire time, is something that was really focused on during my time at fieldwork when we would see this student. So typing something that she's excited about, I figured that this would make her learn better when using her adaptive keyboard. I also stated in this activity that the OT will be seated right next to the student to give her verbal and visual cues and properly place the student's fingers on the keys if needed. So some upgrades and downgrades for this activity: just giving her verbal instruction, not necessarily writing things down. Instruct her to make the font size bigger. During my time at fieldwork, it was really harped on that she gets used to using her iPad and her adaptive keyboard, because she would eventually have to learn on her own where all the keys are, all the functions are on her iPad. So I figured instruct her to make a font size bigger will help her learn where everything is on her iPad when typing. Another upgrade would be for her to type a complete sentence as instructed by the OT, which is something that she hasn't done yet. So this would be an upgrade for her. And also using a different font size that she's not familiar with. Some downgrades: using keyboard stickers, give a prompt that pertains to something that she likes to do, which I've already stated in this activity, how she feels about transitioning into high school. And you can give her written instructions, something that she can actually look at and type herself. Occupation-based model, model of practice, and frame of reference, and intervention approaches, I kept the same because they still apply to this activity. The only thing that I've changed for this activity, I put establish, because keyboarding is her adaptive keyboard is somewhat new to her. We want to establish those typing skills, getting her accommodated to her keyboard so she can be successful and get used to using it, because she'll need it when she's transitioning into high school this upcoming August. So I've kind of already touched on this in the previous slide, but my rationale for this particular activity is basically it will help her become more acquainted with her adaptive keyboard, which is somewhat new to her, and it will help her visual memory and attention by typing on her keyboard every day. That's going to help her get used to looking at the letters, knowing where they are, and she will need these skills when transitioning into high school. as well. As far as evidence, this article found that assistive technology, particularly with students with visual impairments and blindness, they do have the potential to improve their student outcomes related to academics. It also talked about the enhancement of other abilities or their other senses, such as hearing or oral language. Here are my references. Thank you all for watching my video, and I will have some prompting questions in the discussion forum, so see you there.